Honda is combining really well the urban mobility and the pre-urban mobility for those riders who want to ride comfortable, so ride a scooter. Their new Forza 300 version is a pretty big scooter, which means that it's comfortable even for two person, and it's moving pretty well inside the big city and outside of it, so shorter and mid-long tours it's also possible. Let's check out what its 2019 version knows. In this review, let's not to start with the engine and the suspension and things like this, because not these are the most important parts of the new 300 Honda Forza, but all the comfort side innovations and new things which are inside it. First of all, let's start with the comfort things. For example, I have a key, but I do not have to use it because I have this small unit which I only have to put into my pocket. I do not have to touch it anytime, and for example I can give ignition, close the handlebar and everything else without the key from this button, and I can also open the refueling cap as well with the button from here, and the seat too, but we are going to speak about that later. And I can also put up the ignition from this simple button here, and if once I put up the ignition, then we see the again totally new dashboard, which has so many informations that I'm not even going to speak about them because there are really unbelievable amount. One thing that we have to speak about is that the buttons on the left handlebar to use the dashboard is a little bit unlogical, not even a little bit, because you have an Info A button with which you can change the upper line of the trip computer, so the trip A data, elapsed time and average consumption, and trip B also kilometer, so distance and average consumption and an elapsed time, these informations. And with a different button which is under on the downside of the handlebar, Info B button, we can change the downer line, the total kilometers, the range of the bike, and the permanent consumption, and a lot of other data I can see. As some riders who know Honda bikes better will find out pretty easily that these buttons and this whole part section is coming from the DCT transmission Hondas. So for example, this is a gear changing button normally, here it is Info B. This is the first Honda scooter which got the traction control, which can be switched off, and the button of it here in the front is also coming from DCT gear changer button. So these are really a little bit money saving things. But one more thing that we have to speak about, and very important, that there is one more button on this left handlebar with which I can move electronically the windshield of the bike, and it means that it can be 14 centimeters higher and lower, and it's really a very good windshield, because if you put to the lowest position, then you can see everything and get a lot of fresh air, and if you lift up, it's really taking down all the wind pressure even from my, let's say, high upper body, and it's not making any really disturbing wind noise, so it's a great thing. As we are speaking about a big scooter, it's extremely important how many luggage keeping possibilities we have on it. So let's start with the front section. Here we have a small area, which is not so small, but this is not closable. It is important. We are just pushing it and then opening. I opened it several times with my knee, unfortunately, because the bike is not too big for me. And we also have a 12-volt socket inside, so we can charge our phone, and on the side of it we can also see a keeping possibility for our mobile phone. But it's really important to know that if once we put our phone here, then it has to be absolutely unbreakable, because here while riding it's surely going to have a lot of physical impacts. As I have already mentioned earlier, the seat can be opened with a button, and if once we open it, we see that there is a huge, extremely huge storage under it. It is really enough for two helmets without shields and etc. So for an off-road helmet it is not enough, but for scooter and normal closed helmets it's really enough. And it's also pretty practical because, for example, there is this small plastic separator here which can keep your gloves, for example, or anything else behind it, but you can put it back to its place like this as well, and then it can keep, for example, your rain suit. And if you want to separate for other purposes, you can put it in the front as well on two possible places, so it's really well usable and huge storage under the seat. And finally, for your 300 cubic centimeter Honda Forza, you can buy a factory rear box as well. This is not from that factory that Honda is written on it, or it can be opened with the factory key, because it doesn't even need the factory key. It's also working on an electronic way, and there is a micro button under it, and if you push it you can open the whole box. You can see that this is absolutely very huge again, and another big advantage of it, that for example it have a backrest for the passenger as well, so for him or her the rear section of the Forza is going to be extremely comfortable. Maybe one of the only weak points of the new Forza 300 is the front suspension, because this is not a too strong part. It is two simple telescopic forks, not even wide, because 33 mm is the diameter, and one single bridge between them, and from there only the handlebar axle is going upway, so it's the simplest scooter front suspension. And this part is not as good as all the other sections of the Forza 300, because if you are riding on bumpy roads it's not really comfortable. If you have road mistakes in a curve, then it's really not self-confident, and all in all this whole scooter would be really worse for a better front suspension. This test bike has a steering vibration as well, but this is the problem of only this separate motorbike. I asked several other Forza 300 owners and they didn't meet the same problem, so luckily this is not the problem of the whole type, only this bike. In the rear section the situation is better, because here we have two separated suspension elements, and the preload of them can be changed with a tool from the downer part of it. I can say that this could be better as well, but this is not on the same sorry to say poor level than the front suspension. With this part I would easily be able to live together, even on the not too high quality Hungarian roads. About the brake system, it's not really important to speak too much, because it's a perfect thing. In the front we have a 256 mm brake disc, in the rear 241, ABS of course in the front and in the rear as well, and the efficiency and dosability and everything of it is absolutely enough for this motorbike. You can make safe and short emergency brakings if you need. I think the front 120 per 70/15 tire is not even able to put much bigger braking force than this one single disc can make. So all in all, this is a very good side of the Forza 300. What can we say all in all as a closing sentence about the NSS300 new Honda Forza? It's a close to perfect motorbike. A lot of other small things we didn't even speak about, for example these mirrors, which we can with one movement close to this position, and this is extremely useful when you are riding in a huge city jam, because the bike is getting much narrower from it. So all in all, the whole motorbike, the whole big scooter is really close to the total perfection what a city and pre-city rider is needing. Practical, well rideable, everything. Only this front suspension is the simple part which could be developed. I hope that for the next generation of it, the Honda engineers are going to correct it. If you liked our review, please push a thumb up for it. Under the film in the description you can find the link where you can donate our work. If you do it, then all of our reviews are going to be sent to you by email when getting ready, so before their publicity. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe for our channel and watch our previous films and reviews as well. Thank you very much.